God is not a control freak. Hello and welcome to No Crown in Heaven for Bible Knowledge, studying Genesis verse by verse. And we stopped in Genesis chapter 25. Rebecca and her pregnancy with Esau and Jacob, and her inquiry of the Lord. And now we're gonna be in verse 25. In this verse 23, we're gonna focus on this verse and the references in two different places in the New Testament. So verse 22, it said, "But the children struggled together within her, and she said, 'If all is well, why am I like this?' So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, 'Two nations are in your womb, two peoples shall be separated from your body, one people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. And then she will conceive, find out she has twins, and Esau and Jacob, and then the story will continue. But today we're going to focus on that because the mention of the issue of Jacob and Esau is causing a lot of debate and a lot of misunderstanding of God's word because of what's mentioned in Romans chapter 9. And we're going to focus on verses 12 and 13. So verse 12 in Romans 9, "It was said to her, the older shall serve the younger." And that's a quote from Genesis 25. And verse 13, it says, "As it is written, Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated." And that's a quote from Malachi 1 verses 2 and 3. So that issue of Jacob I have loved, Esau I have hated, bring that election doctrine with the Calvinist, and bring that God makes this decision, God makes his choices, and God's sovereignty is deciding who would believe and who would not believe. And the reason for that is the inability to reconcile God's sovereignty and God and human free will. So this episode I'm going to focus on this issue of, does God control our decisions, specifically of believing that would determine our eternity? According to these verses, from the first look, that's what it appears. I have a video I made a while back about the dilemma of Romans 9. I'll post it on the screen. You can watch that. But this video is not about debunking the Calvinist belief. This video is actually just to make us understand how God communicates with us. So if you have a puzzle and the puzzle has only 3 pieces, and all 3 pieces comes like in order 1, 2, 3, and the one in the middle is missing, then you would never be able to put the picture together. Only 3 pieces, but all 3 pieces has to be available for us to make that picture. So there is 3 parts of this issue that people only try to reconcile 2 of them and missing the 3rd part. So I'm going to go over that in a lot more details in this episode. So the first part is God's sovereignty. And God's sovereignty is clear in the Bible. He is sovereign. He does whatever he desires. Psalm 115 verse 3, but our God is in heaven. He does whatever he pleases. So nothing that he wants to do that he would not do or he cannot do. Jeremiah 32:17, Ah, Lord God, behold, you have made the heavens and the earth by your great power and outstretched arm. There is nothing too hard for you. So that clear. God's sovereignty is clear, and he controls everything he wants to control it. Now, the second part of this puzzle is man's free will. Man's free will is clear in the Bible. In Deuteronomy, choose life, so you will live. How God will say, choose life, so you would live. If I cannot make my choices, if everything is determined by God's sovereignty. So man's free will is clear in the Bible. I'm going to bring another verse. I just remembered it now. John 5:40, Jesus speaking to the Pharisees. But you are not willing to come to me that you may have life. You are not willing to come to me. So Jesus clearly here indicating why they don't believe, because they don't have the will. So they do have that free will to make that choice, but you are not willing. So now, how that gonna work if we don't have the third part of this picture? If I can do whatever I want because I have free will, and that will is against God's will, how can he be sovereign? He can't. So in order for us to reconcile this without the third part of this puzzle, is God's sovereign and he decides everything, even he override my will and I don't have a choice. If he chooses me, I will believe. He doesn't choose me, I would not believe. End of the story, because they are missing the third part. So what is the third part? What is the one in the middle that connects these two together? I spoke about this many times in previous videos. God searches the hearts and the intent of the hearts, of the thoughts. That put them together with absolutely harmony. So let's go to 2 Chronicles 16:9. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong on behalf of those whose heart is loyal to him. So, God searches the heart. Even before you're born, God knows everything. God knows the future. God is not limited by time. So, he knows the end from the beginning. So, before I was born, God knew every intent of my thought and searched my heart on every day and every minute in my life, and he had it on record even before I was born. That's because of his foreknowledge of the future, because he is not limited by time. But he did not determine how I am going to act. He just knows it. And God, for the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong on behalf of those whose heart is loyal to him. Now, God's sovereignty doesn't mean he controls my choices, but means he can do anything he wants to do. So that doesn't take anything away from God. It gives him more glory that he allows me to make my own choices, and we're going to go over that in more details. Because when it say God is just, how would be he just if the judgment on me is I have no choice? How you judge somebody who had no choice to make this thing, this act? So God gets glory by practicing his justice to judge the wicked and reward the godly. And that cannot happen without our free will. So let's put all these three parts together. God is sovereign, who can do anything he wants. And he searches my heart and the intent of my thought and see the depths of my heart. Will I believe? Will I reject? And his eyes goes to and fro throughout the whole world, the whole earth, to show himself strong on behalf of those whose hearts are loyal to him. So the conscience he put in us tell us there is a God. Romans 1, God's invisible attributes clearly seen throughout the creation. So anybody who's sincere, and Jesus said this, seek, you shall find. That's clear indication of our free will. If we're seeking for the truth, are seeking to know the God who put the breath of life in us, our conscience is clearly knowing this. By rejecting it, then God passes through. His eye goes throughout the whole earth to show himself strong on behalf of those who's loyal to him. So I'm rejecting the idea of God and I want to worship idols, or I want to live in sin, or I want to live my own life without restrictions. God searches my heart and he sees that. And when he judged me, I would have no excuse. I already rejected him. And for those who have sincere heart to find the truth, God reaches them. I'm going to give a few examples from the Old Testament and the New Testament. We don't have to go to the scriptures, but you know the stories. If you don't know him, you can search him. But there is certain people who have a sincere heart to believe, but they lived in an environment that completely pagan. There is no way for them to be reached, but God reached them. I'm going to give 2 examples in the Old Testament and 1 in the New Testament. The first example in the Old Testament is Ruth. Ruth was a Midianite in a country worship idols, but she has a sincere heart. She seeks for the truth. So God sent the famine, and this family, Naomi and her family, leave the land of Israel and go to the land of Midianite. And the 2 sons married 2 daughters. One of them is Ruth. And the sons dies and the father died. And it's only Naomi, Ruth, and her sister-in-law, the other daughter-in-law for Naomi. And then Naomi is going back to Israel. Ruth will go back with her. The other, I forgot her name, but the other stays. So Ruth believed. God rewarded her. God showed himself strong on her behalf to bring her to faith. Out of the whole nation of these Midianites, she was the one who searched for the truth. God searched her heart, and that's why he sent her to make her to marry this guy who's going to die, but she would believe because she would see that, she would see who God is throughout the life of Naomi and her family. She believed, and she went back and she became the grandmother of David. So that's clear example of God's eye go through and fro through the whole earth. And so who decided that she would believe? She decided that she would believe, but she would never believe until God reaches her. But God reached her because he searched her heart. So the election is not because God just chose me. The election because God searches the hearts, and he shows himself strong on those whose heart loyal to him. Second, I'm going to have actually more than two examples in the Old Testament. The Assyrian army general who was leprosy. He had leprosy. And his wife had a maidservant, a young girl she was a slave, she was a captive in a war or in a battle. She got taken captive and became a slave to the wife of the general. I believe his name was Naaman. And she told the wife, if your husband just go to the man of God in my land in Israel, he would heal him. And the wife told Naaman, and he went and he met Elijah, and he told him to go and dip in the Jordan River 7 times, and he got healed. But how God reached him? By that young girl. God searched his heart. Yes, he was stubborn in doing it, and then his servant told him, if he had told you to do something strong, something hard, you would did it. This is something simple. But he ended up doing it. And he ended up believing in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, God of Israel. But God reached him. If this girl was not a slave, he would have never heard of anything and never believed. So God searched his heart and reached him. And the third example in the Old Testament is Rahab the harlot in Jericho. God led the 2 spies to her house because he knew she would believe. The one example, there's many, but the one example in the New Testament is the Ethiopian eunuch. He's searching, he's reading the scripture, he cannot understand it, and God took Philip and put him on the road to reach him and present the gospel to him, and he believed and he got baptized. So if there is somebody in way country, whatever, China, Africa, whatever, that he has a sincere heart, God will search his heart and God will reach him. So that's the election. But the election is not, we have no free will. We have the free will, and God reaches us when he searches our hearts and see that we are seeking him. Seek, you shall find. Knock, it shall be open to you. So that's the scenario here. So God's sovereignty and election is not overrated. It doesn't override our will, but he searches our heart and then he makes that choice, that election. But the election is not like, oh, I choose this and don't choose that, but I search the heart of everyone. And the ones who have sincere heart seeking for the truth, those are the ones who are chosen. Doesn't mean the gospel is not preached to the remainder. It's preached to the whole world for to be witness against them. But even if you are in a place that there is nothing about the gospel, you heard nothing about the gospel, God will reach you somehow by sending a slave to your way, or by dreams. Muslims come to Christ in dreams. Many Muslims, they have dreams of Jesus, or Jesus appears to them, and they come to faith because they are seeking for the truth. Maybe others who had dreams but still rejected. We don't know. We cannot be in God's place. But God searches the hearts and reaches out. Part of God's sovereignty is to reach every human being on the face of the earth with the truth. He can do whatever he pleases. And it pleased him for the sincere heart to find the truth, so he will reach him. Sometimes he will reach people and they will still reject. People change. God doesn't change. So I may be seeking the truth, seeking about God, and then when I hear the gospel, I just reject it because maybe I have pride, or I change. People change, but God doesn't change. So let's go back to Genesis 25, Esau and Jacob. Now we can see why God said in Malachi, Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated. And the word hated here, as we all know in the Bible, it doesn't really mean a hatred, but it means less, if you love me and you don't hate your father, mother, brother, wife, children, all that, you cannot be my disciple. So God is not telling us to hate our families, but he's comparing our love for him that cannot be affected by our family or the loved ones in our life. So God is not telling us to hate them, but if they hinder us from worshiping him and having a relationship with him, then they will be rejected. So that's in the same way God searched Jacob's heart, and Jacob was bad. He was wicked for some things he did. We'll find out, we'll see. But God changed him. But he searched his heart. He knew, I can change this man. He is going to believe and submit. And he did. But Esau, probably he has pride. This is the same sin for Satan. He despised the first birthright, right? He despised that. So when God said, Jacob I have loved, Esau I have hated, it's because of his foreknowledge of the heart. So when God says foreknowledge, for those who are foreknew, Romans 8, that foreknowledge includes the knowledge of our hearts and the intent of our thoughts. So is there election? Yes, there is election. God elected us by reaching us because he sees our hearts, but doesn't eliminate our free will to say, yes, Lord, I believe. Hopefully this is clear. If God just election and he chooses whoever he pleases without searching our hearts, it's just like that, then we limit his knowledge of our hearts and our intention of our thoughts. So if there is election, yes, he chooses us. And he reached down for us. God sent Philip for the Ethiopian eunuch. God chose him out of all the people who visited Jerusalem because God searched his heart. God searches his heart is the third part of the puzzle. And if we see it this way, we can just rest. The question, how come people who never heard the gospel go to eternal damnation in the lake of fire? Yes, God searches their hearts, and he knew that they're already rejecting him. So on the last day, they will have no answer. It's not like, I didn't hear the gospel. No, you rejected me from the beginning. Your heart was wicked, and you wanted your own life with your own way, and you rejected this way. There will be no question to God, how come I go to hell? Nobody will have ability to accuse God or charge God with injustice, because he searched our hearts, and he would show us on that day, that moment, I showed myself to you and you rejected me. You rejected me. Why do you complain about not hearing the gospel? Or those who say, what about those who never heard the gospel? You're not God. You didn't search their hearts. So, hopefully I covered that topic enough, so we don't get confused about the election and God's sovereignty and man's free will, all reconciled together in one picture, beautiful picture of God who loved the whole world but searches the hearts and show himself strong on behalf of those whose hearts loyal to him. Thank you very much for watching. God bless you, and see you next time.